The Church of St. Michael in Pogrebki has become the epicenter of vicious combat, with Ukrainian and Russian forces locked in a merciless battle for control. David Axe reports for Forbes from the front line that advances are measured in yards as both sides tear into each other with autocannons, drone strikes and infantry assaults. Kursk Oblast, a Russian region bordering Ukraine, has emerged as a critical battleground since Ukrainian forces seized a 1,000 square kilometer salient in August 2024. Control of this territory could prove to be a significant bargaining chip in any future peace negotiations, as it represents an internationally recognized Russian territory. Ukrainian forces, likely 47th Mechanized Brigade, thrust forward with an American-made Bradley fighting vehicle, its 25mm autocannon hammering Russian positions. Russian troops huddled in the church basement as 1-pound shells exploded around them. The infantry of the armed forces of Ukraine is trying to finish off our fighters, one Russian blogger reported before turning to the book of Isaiah. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. The Bradley's luck eventually ran out when a drone from the 34th Motor Rifle Brigade managed to bypass the vehicle's anti-drone netting, dropping a grenade that damaged its autocannon and forced the 33-ton vehicle to retreat. The wider Kursk conflict has turned into a meat grinder. There's nothing righteous about the fighting in Kursk, where 20,000 Ukrainians are battling 60,000 Russians and North Koreans. The latter reportedly will pull the pins on their own grenades rather than surrender. Omnipresent drones have made it incredibly dangerous for armored vehicles, especially Russian armored vehicles, to leave concealment. So the infantry often attack on foot and usually die in large numbers. 400 Russians were killed and wounded in one recent assault. 200 North Koreans fell in an earlier attack. An attempt by a Ukrainian air assault brigade to extend the Kursk front line around the village of Berdin ran afoul of Russian fiber optic drones. The brigade retreated, leaving behind its frozen dead. Pogrebki's control remains contested after costing Russia nearly 800 troops in 2 months of fighting. As Axe notes, the drones that now dominate the battlefield have made armored warfare nearly suicidal, forcing infantry to attack on foot with devastating casualties. North Korean soldiers who are fighting against Ukraine are being used by the Russians as live bait for Ukrainian drones. These soldiers are also brainwashed and memorize speeches by the leader of the DPRK, Kim Jong-un. This is evidenced by the diary entries of the deceased DPRK soldier, which are analyzed by independent experts, writes the Wall Street Journal. In particular, the diary contains a drawing that shows in detail how North Korean soldiers should react to an approaching Ukrainian drone. One soldier, called a bait, should stand still to lure the drone, while others should shoot it down. The diary also describes life at the front, combat tactics, and includes a declaration of love for North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Independent experts, having analyzed the recordings, claim that they are genuine. The handwriting, choice of words, and ideological statements are typical of North Koreans. Even at the cost of my life, I will carry out the orders of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief without hesitation. I will show the whole world the bravery and self-sacrifice of Kim Jong-un's special forces. The publication quotes the entry from the diary. The author of the diary, according to his passport, is named Chon Ken-hong. He was killed along with 2 other soldiers in a shootout on December the 21st near the village of Pogrebki in the southwest of the Kursk region. On December the 9th, Jung wrote that he was celebrating the birthday of a friend he called his closest comrade. He wrote that he missed his homeland because he left the warm embrace of my dear father and mother. In describing drone tactics, Chon wrote that the soldier acting as bait should be about 7 meters away from the drone. Soldiers who are hit by artillery fire should run toward the previously hit area, since the likelihood of being hit twice is minimal. Jung also listed some of the ideological tenets of the Kim regime in his diary. He said he grew up in the kind embrace of the ruling Workers' Party, and his job as a soldier was to protect Kim. He also wrote that he needed to atone for the sins of the past. The contents of the diary are typical of a brainwashed North Korean soldier, said former South Korean Army Major General Ban Jong-kwan. The diary also contains a transcript of a speech Kim gave to battalion commanders last November in Pyongyang. Soldiers are required to memorize the dictator's speeches word for word, experts say. An excerpt from the diary lists Kim's instructions to the North Korean army to begin fighting immediately upon receiving the order. As reported earlier, Ukraine captured the first North Korean soldiers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenski noted that 2 soldiers were wounded in the Kursk region. They were taken to Kiev, where investigators from the Security Service of Ukraine are talking to them. During interrogation, one of the prisoners confirmed significant losses among North Korean soldiers in Russia, South Korean intelligence reported, adding that the wounded soldiers were not in critical condition. Anger at the Kremlin for the failure of the so-called SVO is growing among Russian ultra-patriots. The well-known Z-War correspondent Maxim Kalashnikov spoke about the probable collapse of Russia as a result of the current war. He stated this in his blog. Kalashnikov, who had previously supported the SVO, began to harshly criticize the way Russia is waging war against Ukraine. It is very, very difficult to call the war that is going on now in line with our national interests. There are no national interests here. Everything had to be taken very quickly without distraction, without gigantic bloodshed, huge casualties. You can't wage war like that. It is a massacre, mutual grinding. It was not in the national interests of the Russian Federation to receive liberated territories in the form of nightmarish fields of ruins, in the form of millions of destitute people who were deprived of everything. Well, we understand perfectly well that there will be no Lvov anymore. Kiev too. They won't even take Odessa. They won't unblock Transnistria, Kalashnikov said. He noted that as a result of the SVO, Russia will experience a post-war crisis comparable to the one after the Second World War. And the longer the aggression continues, the more terrible the consequences will be, up to the collapse of the Russian Federation. Our leadership was counting on winning this SVO. They were counting on chance. This plan was broken literally on the 2nd or 3rd day of the campaign. Our leadership did not want this protracted war, and it ended up like a trap or a quagmire, said the Z-War correspondent. He is confident that Russia will likely repeat the fate of the USSR. Most likely a truce will be signed in 2025, but this will not save us at all from the severe post-war crisis that is now beginning to unfold before our eyes. Very turbulent events await us, not at the grassroots, but at the very top first. There is confusion and vacillation at the top. This is obvious, and this process will only escalate. Very big political and economic events lie ahead, Kalashnikov said.